Hello there, I'm Rafael back at it again on another Friday night, getting that one step closer to what will finally be again another beautiful Friday night. But this week, let's talk a little bit about the updates about what's going on, what's happening here in Italy, because things are still changing here. But before we get too much deeper into the video, if you would like to see more content like this about moving to Italy, Italian dual citizenship, and living life abroad, things that are happening here in Italy, be sure to subscribe with that notification bell turned on. And if you could also give this video a like and share it with your friends, that would be greatly appreciated. And of course, a huge thank you to those of you who are helping to make these videos possible through Patreon. It is because of you that these videos are able to continue happening. So thank you so much. So what's going on here in Italy? The country has opened up. Kind of. In a legal sense, people from here within the European Union are able to come here. But does that mean that the country has actually opened up? Does that mean that things are back to normal? In short, no, not at all. For the time being, masks are still required, but here in the Veneto region where I live, they were required both when you were inside and outside. Now, only if you go inside of a place like a store or supermarket, whatever it might be, those masks and gloves are still required. But for just walking around, the masks are not required anymore. So that is literally a breath of fresh air. It has really been wonderful to be able to go out on the street and have my mask off and not have to worry about a fine if I were to take my mask off, because this whole time I'd been keeping it on. Most stores have opened back up, but there are places that have not been able to open up, not because of necessarily a legal restriction, but because of a financial restriction. Many places, like I showed in last week's video when I was in Venice, they just cannot open up because they don't have the business to be able to do it. They don't have the clientele. They've lost out on so many months of not being able to work commercially that they aren't able to continue, at least at this point in time, and without assistance. And it's not just Venice that's empty. I actually spoke to someone earlier who right now is in Florence, and they spent the day going around Florence, and they said that during the day things were completely empty there. Even actually right now, if a person wanted to travel around the country, it's, unless you have a car, yes, you can get around by trains, but if you don't have a car, it's not as easy. But that, of course, is in general. But now there are so many fewer trains that are running, especially some of the interregional trains, some of the high-speed trains aren't running as frequently or to as many places. Normally, like the city that I live in, Rovigo, we're on a high-speed line, and you can get even high-speed trains from here directly to Rome, and you only have, say, Bologna, Florence, and those are the only two stops in between the cities. But at this point, if I wanted to go to Florence, it's not that it would cost more necessarily, but the options to get there are a lot less convenient. It would take multiple trains to get there rather than one or two trains. There are some options still available that are 2 trains to get there, but most of the options that I were seeing available were 3 trains roughly that you have to change. So that to me is not so exciting. Not that I think that traveling right now really is a good idea. Not that I think that's something that people should be doing. The only reason why I'm even considering the idea is because I want to show and document what's happening here right now. That's why I went to Venice. Yes, I went because it was my birthday. Yes, I went to have a good time. But the thing that was really above all the rest that was the most important to me was that I wanted to document this moment in history. And I have toyed with the idea about getting to Florence. But again, it's right now not that easy, and because of how much longer it would take to get there, I wouldn't be able to go and come in the same day, or at least not easily. And then adding in the price of staying over, that would add up pretty quickly, which I can't say I'm really in the position for after this whole ordeal. But Venice, that's a easy, simple trip to get to from where I live. But even now, like I was saying before, because the country has technically opened up doesn't mean that things are open here. It doesn't mean that things have returned back to normal. Even when I go out here in my town, many people are still wearing masks, even though they don't have to. Really, the only thing is that if you can't socially distance, that's the time when you aren't like, you don't have to wear the mask, as far as my understanding goes, at least. But if you want to just be out and about, there are still a lot of people who are wearing them. More older people than younger people, but I've seen even a lot of younger people in their late teens and 20s wearing them. But is this opening a good thing? It's something that I have mentioned before that I am concerned about. Even if you keep up with what I post on Facebook and Instagram, you'll see the post that I made earlier this week. It's probably on Instagram. You won't see it anymore by this time, but on Facebook, that there was a family that they're supposed to be residents of Rome, but they did travel to Italy and find, like, being a resident is not the same as being a tourist. But nonetheless, they still came here and had the coronavirus. And so that means that they brought it here, potentially exposing people. And so that's something that I'm not crazy about. I don't really even care what country that they're from. I don't care what country that they traveled through. If you want to read more information about that, check out my Facebook. It's still on there. I'm going to leave it up there. I'm not going to take it down or anything. While, yes, different countries are approaching this differently, and yes, the country that they're from is really approaching this in a very different way than how it's being approached here, at the end of the day, I really still can't say that it makes a difference at this point, now that they've already brought it and proven that people could still come here and bring it here, even if they are residents, even if they had the legal right to come and to come back to their home. It's a tricky situation because now also there are other European countries that are looking at what Italy is doing and what's happening here and saying, oh no, I'm sorry, you guys are doing a little bit too much too fast. That's not cool with us. For example, the border, I believe, with Austria is remaining closed. To my understanding, they don't want people from Italy coming because of this opening up seemingly potentially a little bit too soon. And personally, I would rather err on the side of caution. And yes, Italy needs the tourism. It needs the tourists. But if this issue continues to go on too long, forget the financial side. There are going to be worse effects potentially from this situation. Am I an expert? No, but just a dude who's been living through this and been seeing what's going on. The financial side of things, that will be very difficult to come back from. And I even received a message from a few of you, private messages, asking if I'm concerned about that. And yes, I am very concerned about the financial situation. Do I think Italy will be able to spring back or figure out how to proceed forward? Definitely. I'm not necessarily worried about that part, but I'm worried about the short term and what we may experience at this point in time. And for the little bit of time going ahead from now, I can't help but wonder if maybe a different approach would maybe be a better way of attacking the situation. For example, while Italy overall seems to be doing well, Lombardy is still an area that is being affected, and as far as I understand, they're not allowing travel in and out of the region. Keep in mind, of course, that the situation is constantly changing. So from the time that I'm recording this video until the time that this goes out, things could definitely be changing. But I would wonder if maybe opening up chunks of regions at the same time, like chunks in the northwest, chunks in the northeast, and then kind of connecting them all little bit by little bit, just slowly one after the other, after the other, after the other, to make sure that the situation is contained, or at least contained enough. And then within the European borders, first with the countries that Italy has direct contact with. So Slovenia, Austria, France, Switzerland. Maybe to these countries that we open up first, or that there's agreements that certain parts of Europe will be able to travel in between those places for the time being until we see what the situation is, and to make sure that it can be kept under control. But of course, this is just my opinion as a non-expert, just wondering what could be the best way of approaching this. But it may actually be that Italy has the right approach to this, but there's no way of knowing because we've never experienced anything like this. Also, because this is something that has come up in the news recently, and I won't refer to it directly because of just YouTube and how things work on here, but I'm sure many of you are familiar with what is happening in the United States right now and the really horrible situation that has come out right after another really horrible situation. I've been getting messages from those of you asking, what are things like here? Has there been any mirroring of that situation here? And I have not seen that. I have not heard about that. And it really seems to be something that's mostly in the English-speaking world where I've heard about marches and other things going on. Also, because you have to remember, gathering here in Italy right now is a little bit of an issue. But have we been seeing stores being broken into and protests and this and that, and people actually making a stand? I haven't seen that here. Is it something that has touched the hearts of Italians? Definitely, you have been seeing that on social media. You have been seeing a lot of people talking about the situation and their feelings about the situation on social media. Here in Italy, Italians, expats, everybody. There are a number of creators that are based here in Italy that make content in English, and I know they've spoken about it and shared their feelings on the situation. But are we seeing the same thing here in Italy as people are seeing in the United States right now? No, we're not seeing that same thing. So for those of you who are concerned, just wanted to share that extra little tidbit about what's happening here in Italy. And of course, my heart goes out to everybody right now that is dealing with the situation and just how dark it can be. It really is so horrible to see the situation and how dark it's become. And just, my heart goes out to everybody in America and all around the world that's dealing with this situation. I mean, 2020, barely even halfway over, and I am already ready to call it 2021. I am ready to write this year off and say bye-bye. Yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining me on another Friday night. Thank you so much for watching this video and subscribing to the channel. And of course, if you would like to see more content like this, be sure that you're subscribed. And if you could also give this video a like, it would really be greatly appreciated because it does very much help out the channel. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to the patrons who make these videos possible. You guys are amazing. Of course, as always, I'm Rafael Di Furia, aka Rafidisme, and I will see you all next time. Later.